In Ezekiel 38 and 39, the invasion of Israel in the end time is from the north, which is talking about Magog, which is to the uttermost north, and so that's Russia, because Russia, no country is further north of Israel than Russia is. Now, there's another invasion account of Israel in the end time from the north. That's in Daniel 11, verse 41 through 45. Now, is this from Russia also? Let's say it is. The evidence is overwhelming. But before I give you the evidence, I just want to give you some other stuff. In this passage, it says, well, in verse 40, it says that the north invades many countries to the south and overruns the south, sweeping through the southern countries like a flood. Now, we have to change this idea of the south to the southwest. I'll explain that later. But if you can buy that idea that Russia is invading countries to the southwest, that does point to the invasion of Western Europe. And of course, if Russia invades Western Europe, that automatically suggests and requires that Russia bomb America, because we're the defender of Europe. Russia would not invade Europe and take it over without knocking off the United States. Okay, now for the explanation of the King of the North and Daniel 11, verse 37 through 45. This is the last war between the North and the South. Now, there's several other wars before that, North versus South. And in those wars, it was Syria as the North and Egypt as the South. Now, if you look in a map, you'll see that Egypt is not to the south of Syria. Egypt is to the southwest. So we take this Egypt-Syria model and we apply it to Russia and countries to the southwest. Just like Egypt is to the southwest of Syria, we look for countries to the southwest of Russia. The idea is that the Syria-Egypt model is a miniature of the end time situation. And okay, that's about it. If we can use Syria versus Egypt as the model, which will be imitated in the end time with a new north and a new south, then we can come up with Russia versus Western Europe. And by that, we can extend that to Russia attacking America, because we're the defender of Europe because of NATO. We're the leader of NATO. So now this idea of Russia invading and overrunning Western Europe is actually the second passage about that. Daniel 7, verse 8, is also about Russia invading Western Europe. I talk about Russia invading Europe and bombing America, and people say, well, where is that in the Bible? And I explain it to them, and it just goes over their head, because the Bible passages are so, um, uh, they're not convincing. They're not impressive. But I want you to um, realize the Bible does say in Revelation 13:7 that the beast, which is the Antichrist, will make war against the saints and will, um, that would be talking about countries where the saints are. Saints is simply a word that refers to the Christians. It's talking about Christian countries. And the original meaning of saint was not the way that the Catholics have it. They have this thing where saints today are like super saints. Well, in the original message, original meaning, saints means holy. And I should present a few passages, but you can look it up if you have a concordance, Strong's Bible Concordance. You can look up the word saints, and you'll see that it's referring to the Christians and Jews. And now let me go over this one more time about Syria becoming Russia, or the rule. Okay, it speaks about the king of the north. Now, originally, it's talking about Syria, because Syria is to the north of Israel, and but we can still think of the north as including Syria. What I'm trying to say is Syria today, it's ruled by Bashar, Assad Bashar. Anyway, but he's not the top ruler. Russia is ruling Syria. Russia has saved Syria's butt. In 2013, the rebels, the freedom fighters, were closing in. They were getting close to taking over Syria, liberating Syria, and then the Russians came in, and we stood by and let them do that. And so Russia saved Assad Bashar his butt. And but anyway, the ruler of Russia is really the ruler of Syria. So on that basis, we can say that the ruler of Russia applies both in Daniel 11, verse 37 through 45, and also Ezekiel 38 through 39, where Magog and Rosh are the names of the country, which is Russia. And okay, here's another reason why the king of the north in the passage I'm talking about is not talking about the Syrian ruler of Syria. It's talking about the overlord, the Russian ruler of Syria. Now, the idea is the king of the north in Daniel 11, 37, and actually through 45, he compares, he parallels the man of sin in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4. And the idea is the man of sin is simply Paul the Apostle's name. He gives that name to the guy that Daniel calls the king of the north. The king of the north and the man of sin and the son of destruction are all the same guy. Now, then one more step, the beast in Revelation 13:7, he's also the same guy. And here it says he will take over the world. Now that cannot be done by Syria. Syria, little Syria, cannot take over the world. So we are forced, F-O-R-C-E-D, forced to look for a meaning other than the king of Syria. The king of Syria has to be part of the larger empire and the ruler of that larger empire, which is the Russian alliance. That's what's being talked about. I know that's it's hard to swallow that. I'm expecting the Russian attack sometime this year because Russia has hacked into our computers, and in my last video I explained that this may well be Russia hacking into our military stuff. They may have the goods on us. They may have crippled and destroyed our computers, the ability of our computers to govern our nuclear missiles. We may not be able to launch our missiles if Russia has destroyed the computer hardware that is supposed to be doing that. They have sabotaged our hardware, our software, and in my opinion, that's the worst case scenario. Now, if that's true, then we can anticipate that Russia will hit us, and then we will not be able to hit back because our computers will not do what they're supposed to do. Okay, that's enough. And so 5 months for the trib. Look that up. I got plenty of videos about that. That's all for now. I'm expecting the trib at Pentecost, and then the tribulation would end at Feast of Tabernacles. I'll talk about it again, or look up my stuff, and I'll write a transcript, as I usually do, in the description box under the video.